I might buy that. But then why change? I might totally buy that. I might say, hey, look, well, wait a minute. If I got this great win percentage and we're winning, who gives a shit? Hey, Sil, so the reason for his success was Kelsey, Steichen, and Barkley. He's the reason Hurts' deficiencies have been covered up, hence offensive sucking in the past 2 years. Yes. Howie Roseman. By the way, Nick might be a good coach. Nick Sirianni might be a good coach. He's got a quarterback that is protected by the owner, and they can't coach. And he can't be coached. I don't know. But Nick should have some balls and say, run the fucking play. This is my team. A.J. Brown's comments a month later. You can't keep slapping a Band-Aid over the offensive issues proved to be true, as the Eagles' deficiencies led to an early playoff exit and significant schematic changes this offseason. Some of those changes might prove uncomfortable, but Sirianni, perhaps Hurts' most staunch public supporter, says he believes the system will largely fit Hurts' skill set, which is not true. If you're saying they're going to run a lot more play action, a little more outside zone, a little more boot action of that, he's been really productive in that play action pass game. We haven't run as many boots and nakeds here in the past, but I know he's good at those when he has. This is Sirianni on Hurts in February. I must have missed that. One team source says Hurts is as open as ever been to the changes. A pattern emerges. If you look closely at Hurts' career, a source close to him pointed out, he is at his best when he has something to prove. That was the case when he arrived at Alabama and the whole Tagovailoa scenario, or the challenges of all that dealt with Carson Wentz. Here. Difficult conversations continue between Hurts and members of the organization this past season, a team source said. Even members of the inner circle, Hurts played a part in it, in what went wrong last year and addressed it with them. Justified or not, there was a level of consternation in pockets of the 25 team dating to the summer. The city is still basking in the championship, fresh off their Super Bowl ring ceremony. A team source said team described the state of affairs as a disaster and indicated Hurts was part of the issue, noting that whatever personality traits rubbed people the wrong way before has since grown since the championship year. Oh, man, oh, man. In Moore, he had a coach who, according to team sources, was a matter of fact about how the offense would function. And in correction, Hurts mistakes when necessary. It was a similar dynamic with Steichen when lines were more blurred, like the 23 season when Hurts and Sirianni and then Brian Johnson weren't aligned in their visions. So the guy who got in the way of Brian Johnson was Nick Sirianni. That wasn't Jalen Hurts. Nick had a problem here. When the lines were blurred, like in 23, when Hurts, Sirianni, and then OC Brian Johnson weren't aligned with their visions, Hurts had more of a tendency to search for answers outside of the game plan and outside of the organization. He is now paired with an inexperienced but well-regarded coach in Mannion, a 33-year-old quarterback who broke into the coaching ranks in 24 with the Packers most recently. If Brown is playing elsewhere in 26, Smith becomes the primary receiver. And like Brown, Smith has had his own frustrations last season. Mainly a source with knowledge of the situation said the lack of layups in the offense. Every catch, every play is a grind it out. I told you, Jalen Hurts makes the receivers work hard because he doesn't throw on time. But Smith handles his frustrations differently than Brown. He's more on the side of conversation, where Brown isn't. I didn't write that. What's your takeaway? Who do you blame now? Who do you blame now? Who are you blaming? She goes, do you think Hurts and Nicole Lynn might try to leverage the fallout from this story into a contract extension for the Eagles? He doesn't deserve an extension. Seals, the infamous quarterback factory will resume production in the draft. Kim, I say that's Jeff Stoutland doing that. When you got that kind of detail, that's Jeff Stoutland. That's an opinion. That's either Jeff Stoutland or Kellen Moore or Brian Johnson or Sean Desai or Kevin Patullo. How's Kevin Patullo to blame when the quarterback doesn't want to do what they're coaching him to do? Let me read these crazy excuses for that. I blame dumb fans who don't know shit about football and are just casuals following the blind. And this isn't fake news, Hurts apologist. You just hate the truth when it's staring you in the face. Lurie and Hurts are to blame. Lurie for protecting him and Hurts for having low character. All I hear is a coward who won't paste his name onto an article. So, okay, that's a good point. Let's see who wrote this. Go over here. And let's go here. So, Tim McManus and Jeremy Fowler, who have access to the Philadelphia Eagle locker room and their press section and their press box. You believe, Cover, that those guys jeopardize their careers for printing a false story about Jalen Hurts and the head coach and the coordinators. You believe those guys would put their jobs on the line for one story and having access to the Eagles. You believe that? So then, according to you, then, Cover, Bob Lang's going to revoke their